There's someone in my wife's heart, someone who has already passed away. I know the living can never compare to the dead, especially since her beloved's sacrifice was related to me. I married her, gave her financial comfort, and have never crossed any boundaries. This year on her birthday, I sent over gifts as usual. Her eyes reddened as she asked, after all this time, tell me what makes me inferior to her. 1. Her father passed away early, and without her pillar of support, some of the company's old-timers took advantage by deliberately making things difficult for her. Her mother was an old friend of my parents, who couldn't bear to see their dear friend's daughter in such dire straits. So they discussed and decided that I should marry her, thinking that with someone to lean on, her life might become slightly more bearable. Ethan, Chloe, we met once before our engagement, and after exchanging names, the atmosphere fell into silence again. On our wedding night, I stood on the balcony watching her sleeping face, unknowingly finishing one cigarette after another. The news that one's own wife has feelings for someone else, no one would accept such a thing, especially not someone like me, whose heart raced unconsciously whenever I saw her. That's why I immediately agreed when my parents suggested I marry her. But the deeper the night, the brighter the moon. I understand the living can never compare to the dead, especially when his sacrifice was related to me. On the second day of our marriage, I drove her to her company building. Just as I was about to undo my seatbelt to follow her out of the car, she said quietly, "Thank you, but that won't be necessary." She had strong self-respect, even though the purpose of our marriage was to support the Miller family. Afterwards, she repeatedly refused my requests for her to attend important events as Mrs. Clark. One day I came home drunk, and she helped me, pouring me a glass of warm water with honey. Before handing the glass to me, she even took a small sip to test the temperature. My heart was in such turmoil at that moment that instinct took over before reason could intervene. I lightly held the nape of her neck and turned to kiss her lips. In just 1 second, my drunkenness completely vanished, leaving my mind utterly blank. Yet she acted as if nothing had happened, simply handing the water glass into my hands. The temperature's perfect. After finishing my bath, I gently lifted the corner of the blanket and lay down beside her. I sensed she wasn't asleep, and we gazed at each other for a long while. "I'm sorry, Before I could finish speaking, I saw her eyes redden in the dim light. My heart felt as if it were being gnawed by ants. I wanted to raise my hand and wipe the tears from her cheek, but my arm froze mid-air. She sniffled and turned over. After a long pause, she finally spoke. "Ethan, we're husband and wife. Right, we only have this marital relationship. As for anything else, probably only hatred and disgust remain towards me from her." The next day, I immediately had my assistant help me pack up a different place. I didn't want to drown in wakeful despair. I feared another incident like this might happen, making her loathe me even more. 2. What are you doing? After that night, we hadn't spoken a word to each other. These were her first words to me in days. I let out an awkward laugh, my gaze fixed on the suitcase in my hand as I rubbed the tip of my nose. "I didn't want to disturb you. You're doing this for..." She stopped mid-sentence, shook her head, waved her hand at me dismissively, then sat down on the sofa without looking my way again. Though I don't live with her, the household butler reports to me daily. "Miss Chloe hardly ate anything today. Was my cooking not to her taste? Miss Chloe ate fairly well today. Miss Chloe brought a man home today. Miss Chloe had a good appetite today." She seems to be in quite high spirits. My attention was completely captured by the phrase, "bringing a man home." Her finger hovered over his contact photo for a long time before finally moving away and dialing the butler's number instead. "Is that man gone yet?" "No, still in the study." "Maria, please go check what those two are doing." The butler stammered, "Perhaps it's better if you handle this yourself. I'm not comfortable doing such things." I was supposed to attend a project briefing in the afternoon, but all I could think about was, Chloe, a man, in good spirits, still here. "Postpone the meeting. I'm going home." When I returned, I happened to see the two of them coming out of the study. Chloe's eyes were crescent-shaped with a smile on her face, an expression I'd never seen her wear before. And I recognized that man too. He was the son of a shareholder at Miller & Company. "Ethan?" Connor smirked when he saw me, letting out a derisive snort laced with mockery and bravado. "Your wife came to borrow money from me. Tell me this, instead of asking her own husband, she comes to me." Connor's words were deliberately crafted to humiliate both Chloe and me in one stroke. Chloe's smile froze on her face, and only then did I realize her earlier laughter might not have been from happiness. "I've upset your sister-in-law recently. She's giving me the cold shoulder here." I stepped forward and wrapped my arm around Chloe's shoulders, pulling her into my embrace. "All right, darling, my mistake. Don't make me jealous with outsiders." I wrapped my arm around Chloe's shoulders and guided her toward the living room, shooting a meaningful glance at the butler who had been watching curiously. "Maria, show our guest out." With the sound of the door closing, Chloe pulled away from me, sobbing quietly as she hurried upstairs. Pursing my lips tightly, I followed behind her. She swung the bedroom door shut behind her, attempting to keep me outside. I pressed my hand against the doorframe, applying slight pressure. "Chloe, don't be like this." "Ethan, did you come just to laugh at me?" The tears in her eyes spilled onto her cheeks, piercing my heart with pain. "That's not You could have told me. Chloe sobbed loudly. Then why do you think I didn't tell you? I stood frozen in place. She'd rather share her sorrows with Connor than with me, her own husband. She didn't want to share her embarrassment with me. I'm not even as good as Connor. Why should I tell a husband who's like a complete stranger? Haven't I looked pathetic enough being abandoned by my husband? I swallowed the bitter saliva gathering in my throat and frowned slightly at Chloe. Talk to me if something's wrong? What answered me was the sound of a door being slammed shut with full force. I had the butler bring her dinner, until he came to tell me, Miss Chloe has fallen asleep. Only then did my anxious heart settle, and I cautiously entered the room. Sitting by the bed, I gently brushed away the tears still clinging to her cheeks and gazed at her quietly for a long while. So long that my eyes grew sore, my mind filled with nothing but the image of her shouting at me, tears brimming in the corners of her eyes. I moved out because I was afraid I might behave inappropriately again, but I didn't realize it would make her feel abandoned. I hadn't considered that clearly, so I moved back in just a few days later. But she deliberately avoided me, ignoring me. Sir, although you're the one paying, forgive me for speaking plainly, you ought to comfort Miss Chloe. Comfort her? I sat in the conference room listening to my subordinates' reports, my mind wandering the entire time. Finally, I picked up my phone and searched, how to make my wife happy. The words apologize proactively appeared in bold before my eyes. I tilted my chin toward my assistant, signaling for him to take over the meeting. In high spirits, I bought a fresh bouquet of flowers, rehearsing in my mind what I would say later. More nervous than my first client pitch, yet when I got home and opened the door, I found an uninvited guest. My parents. All my planned romantic scenarios evaporated instantly, leaving only the pressure of handling their baby-making agenda. While the housekeeper cooked, I secretly pulled my mother aside. We're not even close yet. Aren't you just making trouble for me on purpose? My mother gave me a critical once-over. Seriously? You can't even manage this after several months of marriage? I gave my sharp-tongued mother a rather resentful look. Before leaving, my parents whispered to me, why did we arrange for you to marry Chloe? Do something meaningful, don't let Chloe keep suffering in silence. Build up the reputation of Mrs. Clark. 3. Later, at a business event, I ignored Chloe's reluctance. Wrapping an arm lightly around her waist, I introduced her to the crowd. This is my wife, Chloe Miller. I knew she didn't want my help, didn't want to owe me anything, and of course, she had the ability to handle things herself. But since I married her, I absolutely cannot let her suffer any grievance. Various shareholders clamored to sell their shares, using this tactic to intimidate the newly parachuted young chairman. This was also why Chloe didn't hesitate to borrow money from Connor. She feared that after shareholders sold their shares, the company would be acquired by another firm, and her father's hard-built business would fall into someone else's hands. So tonight I deliberately walked up to the shareholders of Miller & Company. With a polite smile, I exchanged pleasantries. Chloe has mentioned you often. I'll definitely pay you a visit when I have the chance. Please don't tease me. They all wore smiles on their faces. They understood the implications behind my words, so their grins seemed more like awkward grimaces. Since coming of age, I've been handling company affairs, and my achievements speak for themselves. Even if they don't fear me, they'll fear the Clarks. Having achieved my goal, I lost interest in socializing. I draped my coat over her shoulders and tentatively asked, hungry? Let's get something to eat. For the first time in a while, I saw a faint smile on Chloe's face. Unlike that day, this time it seemed like a genuine smile from the heart. Her eyes were bright as she looked up at me, pressing her lips together in a smile and nodding slightly. What would you like to eat? For a moment, I felt like I'd received an enormous surprise, caught completely off guard. We didn't go to any fancy restaurant, but instead followed the GPS to a food street dozens of kilometers away. Our formal attire looked strikingly out of place in this vibrant, down-to-earth atmosphere. The food street was bustling with activity. Though our conversation was sparse, the smile on my face never faded. Her mouth stuffed full, she mumbled indistinctly, we should have changed clothes before coming here. Our outfits were far too eye-catching, drawing frequent glances from passers-by. I leaned in slightly to hear her better. There's a clothing stall over there, want to change? She shook her head slightly. I'm full, let's just go home. After hastily packing some snacks that were still being prepared, we quickly returned to the parking lot. In the confined space of the car, the atmosphere between us suddenly became somewhat ambiguous. My heart itched with a tinge of nervousness. This might leave a smell in your car, do you mind? She raised the snack bag in her hand. Don't mind. I snapped back to reality and started the car. The whole ride, she sat quietly in the passenger seat, occasionally typing on her phone or turning to gaze at the night scenery outside the window. I broke the silence in the car with a light-hearted joke. Chloe, I've been quite a negligent husband, haven't even handed over my salary card to you. She didn't respond to my words but instead said, Stella is coming back. Stella was her best friend. She went abroad after that accident. We were all survivors of the tragedy from years ago. Chloe's expression cooled again, and I guessed she must have remembered that old acquaintance. I pressed my lips together and responded quietly. When we got home, we walked side by side to the door, understanding without words. I stopped at the entrance without changing shoes, and her gaze swept over me indifferently. Thank you for tonight. Her words trailed off as my phone suddenly rang. Without checking the caller ID, I muted the call and ignored it. Aren't you going to? She began, only to be interrupted again by my ringing phone. It was the same number as before. With a slight frown, I apologized and stepped aside to answer the call. A familiar voice came through the phone. Ethan, I heard you stole the show tonight. Too busy to make it to your old friend's welcome banquet, huh? To be honest, I hadn't interacted much with Stella since we'd only gone through that accident together years ago. I replied with practiced courtesy, there's always another time. After exchanging pleasantries, I turned to see Chloe frowning slightly, her eyes carrying a trace of hurt. Seeing her like this, my heart ached with pity once more. Was she upset because memories from the past came flooding back along the way? Chloe, she cut me off abruptly, as if avoiding something. I'm tired, I'm heading upstairs first. So I changed the subject. Chloe, I also forgot to apologize about moving out. She turned her head and spoke softly. You can move out, or live with whoever you want. I don't mind. It's me who's held you back. The words died on my lips because I knew she hated me fiercely for his sake. I was consumed with jealousy. Is that really how you feel? She didn't answer, slamming the door shut with violent force, her response loud and clear. I stood at my doorstep for a long time, like a completely abandoned puppy. Our relationship had clearly improved considerably just a few hours earlier. For Stella repeatedly invited me out for meals. Given that she was Chloe's good friend, I couldn't repeatedly reject her and hurt our friendship. Stella invited us to dinner. It wouldn't be appropriate for a married man to meet a single woman alone, so I forwarded the message to Chloe. She didn't reply to me until evening. Should I call just you or both of you? We're married now. Calling me means calling us both. She replied almost instantly, busy. I couldn't help but frown, wondering how our relationship had become so strained. Just as I was contemplating how to politely turn down Stella, Chloe sent me another message. When are you off work? I'll be waiting for you in the restaurant parking lot. I'll come pick you up. Wait for me in the parking lot. People would laugh if they saw you like this. After a long while, when I had already started the car, she finally messaged me. Okay, I extended my arm after picking her up, placing the gift from the back seat into her lap. See if you like it. Those friends of mine said that gifts are absolutely essential for keeping a wife happy. Though they're not exactly reliable, always fooling around, given the number of girlfriends they've had. They're probably trustworthy. I went to the mall and bought the latest designer bag. They say a bag can cure all ailments. But when Chloe saw it, there wasn't much joy in her eyes, just indifference. Thank you. We fell into silence again for the rest of the way. As we entered the restaurant, she coughed lightly and gently placed her hand on my arm. The moment she touched me, my heart raced uncontrollably, and my neck and ears burned with warmth. You're right. I don't want outsiders to think less of us. After a pause of a few seconds, I tentatively wrapped my fingers around her hand. When she didn't resist, I slipped my fingers between hers. Intertwining my fingers with hers was a brief action lasting mere seconds, yet to me it felt like an eternity had passed. I even held my breath from nervousness until it became hard to breathe. When we reached the private room's entrance, we exchanged a glance before she stepped forward to knock, with me following closely behind. Upon entering, I had expected to see many of their friends, but to my surprise, only Stella was there. Stella's beaming smile froze when she saw us, then she burst out laughing. Chloe, oh my god, it's been way too long since we last met. She then studied Chloe's face intently. Haven't been getting enough rest? Those dark circles look pretty serious. I leaned in to examine Chloe's face. Where were these supposed dark circles? Chloe let out a bashful chuckle and gently pushed me away. Only when I sat down did I understand her movements, and a belated shyness flooded my cheeks. Ethan, why is your face so red? Stella said, followed by Chloe leaning in to look at me, forcing me to avert my gaze and lower my head. Stella joked at the worst possible moment. What's wrong, Ethan? Has it been too long since you last saw me? Do I look prettier now? I'm telling the truth, I said, because the people around me are too fascinating. It's making my heart restless. Chloe wore a faint smile as she picked up food for me, but it was lamb, which I detest the most. Halfway through the dinner, Chloe and Stella were chatting intermittently. Didn't you hold a wedding? Just a marriage of convenience? Stella's gaze fell on our fingers, her tone lively, like a harmless joke. I couldn't help but gaze at our fingers too bare, with no rings. Chloe pursed her lips and remained silent, keeping her head down as she ate. We used our parents' rings at the wedding ceremony, family heirlooms that couldn't be lost, so we put them away after the ritual. On the way home, I could sense Chloe wasn't in good spirits. Let's go pick out rings tomorrow. She turned her head toward the window. Softly, she spoke. No need, sorry, I'd forgotten about wedding rings. We've been married for almost a year, but in the end you still don't care. Then again, ours is just a marriage of convenience after all. Only then did I realize this matter of rings might have been bothering her for quite some time. You can voice any dissatisfactions you have. She suddenly turned to face me squarely, her eyes fixed on mine. Ethan, did you call me here today just to deliberately let my former friend mock my unhappy marriage? Of course not. If she weren't your friend, why would I have dinner with her? We stood staring at each other like this in the parking lot, her eyes once again brimming with tears. She called me a liar, then got out of the car. I sat inside for a long while, white smoke shrouding my face. Suddenly, something occurred to me. I stepped out and hurried home. If Chloe gets angry about these things, doesn't that mean she cares about me? That our marriage still matters to her? 5. I stood outside in the cold wind a little longer, afraid the smell of smoke still clinging to me might make her cough. I had barely opened the door when I saw her packed luggage. My heart instantly sank as I bent down to snatch her suitcase. Chloe, I promise I'll be a good husband. She glanced at me. I'm on a business trip. After a few stunned seconds, I forced a laugh and pushed the suitcase back toward her. It's so late. It's urgent, I have to catch a flight tonight. But she didn't tell me this business trip would keep her away for half a year. She had founded a branch office in another city. When I found out she'd be stationed there long term, I immediately flew over, grabbed her, and went ring shopping. She kept saying she was busy, had no time to see me, but when that ring slid onto her finger, her eyes were shining, a smile playing at the corners of her lips. During the meal, she asked me proactively, I heard you've landed another tough project? I shook my head with a smile. It's because I have a great team. Then I asked her in return, how about things on your end? From that point on, she chattered incessantly, as if opening the floodgates, telling me all about the business situation here and the eccentric clients she'd encountered. Perhaps she was happy about something at work, or perhaps she was simply enjoying spending time with me. Sometimes I would fly over to see her, have a meal together, and go shopping. Now, we were like a young couple in the honeymoon phase. Over the past 6 months, I bought her rings in many different styles. I thought it would make her happy, but instead, she complained, wedding rings are something we wear together. With so many styles, are these meant to be accessories or our actual wedding rings? I didn't feel upset by this complaint. Instead, I thought she was adorable. She started venting to me. I chuckled quietly through my nose. Let's go pick out a meaningful one together someday. Recently, there's been a charity auction where whispers suggest there's an exceptionally attractive ring. 6. That charity auction happens to be in the city where she lives. She looked particularly beautiful when she came to pick me up at the airport, perhaps because it had been so long since I last saw her. Chloe waved at me with a bright smile when she spotted me. As I approached, she handed me a warm cup of coffee. Tired? She asked. I shook my head and took a sip of the coffee. It's sweet. After leaving the airport and getting into the car, her assistant bought us breakfast. Looking at her assistant, I was momentarily stunned, because her assistant's appearance looked incredibly familiar. Chloe nudged my arm and smiled with curved eyes. Ethan, is it not to your taste? My gaze fell on her glittering fingers. I truly didn't want to voice what was on my mind, creating another rift between us. How could that be? When are you coming home? Mom and Dad miss you so much. When things settle down a bit more here, I said, looking at her. The dark circles under her eyes were truly noticeable now. From the bottom of my heart, I took her hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. Don't work yourself so hard. She didn't reply, but lightly squeezed my hand in return. That evening at the hotel while we were getting our makeup done, Chloe didn't seem herself. She kept breaking out in cold sweats, her lips looking rather pale. I crouched beside her, wiping the sweat from her forehead. What's wrong? Not feeling well? She was about to speak when her assistant placed a glass of water by her hand. President Miller, have some water, you'll feel better. The rich aroma of brown sugar ginger tea from the cup wafted into my nostrils. I stood there in a daze, unable to snap out of it for the longest time. Even her assistant knew about her menstrual cycle, yet I, as her husband, remained unaware. Before the auction begins, there will be a period for free socializing. Chloe was new here and eager to make friends from all walks of life. I asked the waiter to replace the champagne in her hand with hot water. That's not very appropriate. I patted her shoulder to comfort her. If you're with me, it's fine. If my wife needed to watch her manners around others, then all these years of my work would have been for nothing. A faint smile played at the corners of her lips as she leaned her shoulder lightly against mine and nodded. When bidding for the coveted ring, one buyer was particularly relentless. Ethan, maybe we should let it go, Chloe whispered, tugging at my sleeve. It's fine. After all, the auction proceeds will go to charity anyway. This was the first time she had ever asked me for something I ought to spend a fortune just to win her smile. Successfully obtained. During the interview, we held hands tightly, the rings on our fingers particularly dazzling, absolutely beautiful. I've never given Chloe the best, always wanting to give her something to make her feel my love. This was the first time I told Chloe I loved her. As the event ended, I held her hand and carefully studied the ring on her finger. She loved this ring so much because it was her mother's dowry. Back then, her mother had to sell this dowry to support her father's business venture. That's why this ring held extraordinary significance for Chloe. Thank you. Just doing what a husband should to pamper his wife. Then I paused and joked, how do you plan to thank me? Her eyes curved into crescents as she pursed her lips and looked at me, then swiftly tilted her head to peck my cheek. Noticing my reddened earlobes, she teased deliberately, was that okay? My heart raced wildly as I dodged her gaze. Why yes, it's okay. I had originally planned to stay longer to deepen our connection, but she's very busy with work, and I have my own tasks that require personal attention. Of course, the most annoying thing is still that damned assistant of hers, with the face of her late friend, always fawning over her. Fortunately, I still have my trump card. Her birthday is coming up, and I plan to prepare an extremely romantic confession venue. Feelings need nurturing, but she also needs to know she holds a place in my heart. On her birthday, I sent the gift over just like last year, hoping to surprise her. I bribed the assistant to keep me updated on Chloe's schedule throughout the day. In the evening, he reported, Ms. Miller has gone home. I glanced at the fully prepared venue and headed home to pick her up. When I arrived at her place, I took a deep breath before knocking on the door, feeling a bit nervous. But after knocking for a long time, there was no response, making me wonder if that guy had tricked me. Just as I was about to make a phone call, the door opened. Chloe stood there with reddened eyes, looking like a pitiful little bunny. What's wrong? No sooner had I spoken than she began crying even harder. I quickly bent down to wipe the tears from the corners of her eyes. What's going on? She slapped my hand away and stumbled back several steps, but I hurried after her. Her voice broke with emotion. We've been married for so long, what does she have that I don't? I work so desperately hard, isn't it all to be worthy of you? Why can't you still see me? My mind went completely blank, repeatedly wondering who she was actually talking about. I didn't. Please stop crying, alright? Just as my hand touched her face, she retreated and avoided me again. Liar! She took out her phone and thrust the screen right before my eyes. It's Stella's Instagram post today, with a photo of the confession setup I prepared, and my back is just visible in the picture. Couldn't you wait any longer? Was I delusional? Fine, I agree to divorce. I'm the third wheel standing in the way of your relationship, is that it? Realizing her misunderstanding, I hurriedly explained. That setup was for you. Stella and I aren't close, I've liked you for 5 years. The tearful person suddenly froze mid-sob, staring at me blankly. He didn't seem to believe what I was saying. 5 years ago, when my parents took me to visit your home, I already liked you back then. But then that accident happened. Your best friend died saving us, and I didn't dare confess my feelings to you after that. That year, the four of us had spent the whole day at the amusement park. When her best friend came to pick us up from the parking lot, a truck's brakes failed and came barreling straight toward us. Her best friend drove the car to block the truck's path, shielding us from the impact. After this incident, I knew Chloe would never forget him. I no longer had any chance left. He's not my boyfriend, he's my best friend, like an older brother to me. Now it was my turn to be stunned. Turns out, he had always been my imaginary rival. Although the surprise was gone, the intention remained. I wanted her to see the venue I had prepared. My makeup is all cried off. Were there many people there? She sat in the passenger seat, touching up her foundation with a cushion compact. I shook my head with a smile. She looked absolutely beautiful like this. There's no one there, just us. I wanted witnesses, but feared she might refuse, which would embarrass me. I also worried others might make a commotion, making her feel like I was emotionally blackmailing her. Well then, she drew out the syllable, raising an eyebrow at me. I knew exactly what she wanted to ask. Just then, the traffic light turned red and I stopped the car. I turned sideways to face her slightly reddened, tearful eyes. I don't like Stella. I don't know how she found out about that place, but I've never been in contact with her. She pouted her lips, showing a rare glimpse of adorableness. Alright, got it, the man who's secretly loved me for 5 years. I burst out laughing instantly and reached out to pinch her cheek. Giggling, she dodged far away. The light's green, the light's green. At the parking lot, I couldn't wait to show her what I had prepared for her. Holding her hand, I quickened my pace and eventually broke into a jog. As we reached the entrance, a waft of floral fragrance greeted us. The moment we pushed open the door, the entire house lit up, with the garden path sparkling like stars. Did you rent out an entire manor? She stepped cautiously, walking towards the house. If you like, this can be our home. She wanted to develop her career here, and I could also shift my work focus to be with her. She looked surprised, blinking in disbelief, wanting to confirm with me again. So I repeated once more, this is our home. She got her answer and strode into the house. Her expression and demeanor told me she loved this place. I had arranged many details, but neither of us was in the mood to appreciate them anymore. She clung tightly to my neck, while my large hand cradled the back of her head, our breaths mingling. We spent our wedding night in this new home. She rarely slept in, but this morning she nestled deeper into my arms. Do you want children? I murmured, my cheek brushing against her hair. That depends on you. If you want them, then I want them too. We hadn't slept until dawn last night. Seeing her reddened eyes, I couldn't help but blame myself for lacking restraint. Sleep now, Chloe. I cradled her face and gave her some water to drink. She furrowed her brows, staring intently at her phone screen with utmost seriousness, as if the pliant woman who had just been in my arms wasn't her at all. Go to sleep first, deal with work later. She ignored me, simply taking my phone from under the pillow instead. Curious, I pressed my cheek against hers to look too. Both our phones showed Stella's social media feeds, yet the content was completely different. Everything Chloe saw was related to me. No wonder she thought I liked Stella. Stella's Instagram post today showed a large hand around her waist, with a small mole on the man's wrist. I have one on my wrist too. I muttered quietly, I was with you all last night. After a pause, I quickly added, and I've never been with her before either. This is utterly unfair, a disaster that came out of nowhere. Is she really your best friend? Who would set their sights on their best friend's husband? The answer was already obvious. I took the phone from her hand, held her, and settled into bed together. Gently patting her back, I said, no rush. We'll settle the score with her another day. 9. After we both confirmed each other's feelings, we frequently appeared together in public as a couple. Wherever I was, she would be there, and wherever she was, I would be there. We didn't go after Stella to settle the score, but surprisingly, Stella came looking for Chloe. One day, when I went to pick Chloe up from work, I saw a crowd gathered at the entrance of her company. I immediately sensed something was wrong and hurriedly got out of the car. Chloe, protected by security, had a visible red mark on her face. I rushed over to her, staring at the red mark on her face. Did she do this? Does it hurt? Ethan, I'm the one who loves you most, can't you see? Stella, still being held by the arm, broke free and rushed toward us. In just 1 second, I was completely sober, my mind utterly blank. She's barely good-looking, what makes her worthy of your love? I love you the most, I'm the one who truly loves you. How dare she stand by your side as your wife? Tell me, is this a marriage of convenience? Isn't it? Isn't it? I ignored her. Turning my head, I asked the security guard nearby, has the police been called? No sooner had I spoken than officers arrived. I stayed with Chloe the entire time she gave her statement. She wanted to reconcile, believing their years of friendship shouldn't have come to this point. I had my lawyer submit screenshots of Stella's social media posts to the police. The various content in Stella's posts had already violated the law. Chloe considered their past friendship, but I wouldn't. I took Stella to court, and opposing counsel produced medical proof of her mental illness. She was admitted to the psychiatric hospital. When the results came out, Chloe's mood turned gloomy. She was normal before. Stella had been mentally healthy previously, but after that accident and facing bullying abroad, her mental state began to deteriorate afterward. The person leaning against me murmured, perhaps she just saw you as an emotional anchor. I pulled her closer into my arms and gently stroked the back of her head. Chloe, don't overthink things. This year, I accompanied her to pay respects to her best friend, our savior. After we returned, she discovered she was pregnant. Has he come back to us? Chloe looked slightly emotional, tears glistening at the corners of her eyes. I lightly kissed the corner of her lips and soothed, yes, it's time for us to repay the favor. The end.